bunch of cars went into spontaneous combustion, apparent spontaneous combustion up here with a sea of unburned paper in between. And here's that toasted car lot. But we're going to look at various directions of watching this dustification. There's a cluster of core columns that remains here. Watch what happens to them. They just faint. I believe that's the upper part of where those firefighters survived in Stairwell B. Those are core columns. This is another one. See how it peels away like a banana? And you see this clear air around it. Some folks like to say dust settled on it. Well, dust can't settle on something like that fast without seeing it. And this from across the river, you can see those two. And then there's a sequence from the northern view. And, you know, my detractors like to say, oh, it fell over. And because the dust was so fine, it hung in the air. Well, if the dust is so fine it hung in the air, how could it be settled instantly on these vertical columns? We saw it was peeled away like a banana. But it comes a point where it's no longer a crisp boundary and just turns to dust. I call it dustification. What happened to his engine? Evidence of levitation.
So if power came down, I was across the street, and I picked up the camera just out of habit. And something in the back of my mind said, run, run, run. And never in 20 years of shooting in New York have I run from an assignment. But something in the back of my head just said, run. And as I hit the corner of Liberty Street, it was almost being picked up by a tornado, almost being picked up
like a wave.
It was like being picked up.
Like that black cloud.
That black cloud had substance. It was like night, but it had a solid feel to it. It was like gravel, hot gravel, and just picked me up and tossed me about a block. At one second I was running, and the next second I was airborne. And I lost my glasses, I lost my cell phone, I lost my pager, but managed to hold on to both cameras.
But it threw you for a block?
I was back down at Ground Zero last week and walked the area where I have a pretty good recollection of where I was and where I wound up, and it was just under a city block.
It was this blast of warm air. It wasn't hot. It was warm. And it picked me up and threw me up against the wall of the building that was...
You were picked up off the ground?
Physically picked up off the ground.
The man bin Laden never existed. They have been working on certain types of weaponry based on quantum physics, which is also known in the old world as Kabbalah. It's the same thing. One's Kabbalah, which is based on magic. The other one is quantum physics, which is based on science. Magic is nothing but science that hasn't been revealed or explained. The towers were knocked down either intentionally or by mistake, because they are messing with quantum physics, okay? Now, you can't knock down two towers and just expect everybody to go, oh, nothing to see here, and move along. So they had to assign a name to it. So they came up with the name Bin Laden, or Bin Laden. What holds this planet together, the electromagnetics, the electrical system, space, time, gravity, is the planet Saturn. Okay? The mystics all know this. That's why it's the main focal point of all the religions, and people don't realize it. That's why you have the hexagon on the Hebrew flag, because it's the cube. It represents Saturn. It's sitting in the UN prayer room. Go Google UN meditation room and you'll see a black cube sitting in there. It represents Saturn. Look at Mecca. There's a black cube there. It represents Saturn. The cube, the square that you wear on your head, represents Saturn. Because to these people, it is God, and it is a very big part of the reality of which we live in. It's not God. It's part of the creation. But that's what it does. It regulates time and space. So they, in Hebrew, they call Saturn, it has many names, but one of them is Binah, B-I-N-A-H. So they shortened the word to Bin, B-I-N. Okay? And then they added Laden, L-A-D-E-N. Laden means like heavy weight, to tie down, restrain, or hold back. Now you have Bin Laden. See? So now they assign that to the name of the mathematical problem or the quantum physical problem, and they called it Bin Laden. And so they told you Bin Laden did it. In other words, it didn't work out like we said. It was Bin Laden that did it. You see? So now they've got a boogeyman that they can chase after. So now they say he's hiding in caves. The cave that Bin Laden was in, which is just, it's theoretical, is what's called Plato's cave. And what that means is, Plato said, look, if you took people and you chained them to a wall, and you had a fire, and the only thing that they ever saw, they never saw outside, they just saw shadows on the wall, that's all that they would ever understand as reality. They would never know that if they looked over this way, that they would see the true reality of what's outside of that cave. And so what they're saying is that you have been so well trained in your head to believe what you see that you believed what you saw, not the reality of it. And that's not your fault. I mean, this is so high-tech crap, you can't believe it. And so when they said Bin Laden was hiding out in caves, they're using Plato's caves. In other words, they're saying, because all you've ever understood is what you've seen, that's all you'll ever know. See, they're making fun of you, basically, is what they're doing. That's what that whole, he's hiding in caves. No, the reality of it was hiding in caves, because they never hipped people to what the truth is. And they sat back with their gin and tonics and laughing and smoking their cigars and collecting mass amounts of money and scaring the dog shit out of people. See, that's what's going on. That's why in that video I made, Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, where it shows that cube flying around, because that cube is time and space. That's what slammed into the towers and knocked them down. The one with the Donald Duck, remember that video? That cube? Okay, that cube represents Saturn. It represents time and space. Okay? They're scared. They're scared. So, no more videos. We don't have to exchange any more bad words. Some people are going to get this stuff, and some people won't. It's a fact. The ultimate weapon is time and space manipulation. And to put it in a more understandable way, let's say you're going to get in a fist fight with a guy, and you can go back before you get in a fist fight with a guy, and you're standing out of the way before he throws the punch. You can't combat that. Because now you're thinking you're punching him in the face, and you're getting punched in the back of the head. You see? It's the same thing. It's quantum physics, and it's what it is.
Explosions and helicopter noise.
ABC News has learned that the SEALs who carried out the mission were using a top-secret weapon, the world's first stealth helicopter. Brian Ross is here with that story. And Brian, this is beyond James Bond. It's a helicopter that is almost invisible and almost silent.
Very strange one indeed. In fact,
I didn't realize, I didn't know what is going on and what is, I wasn't in my senses. What happened? Near, firstly I laughed. Mama, no, sorry, Osama is my neighbor.
Now this is interesting. This is from the same video that whoever made it. If we look, what do we have here? We have an 8-sided object. That's not a Ferris wheel, folks. That's an 8-sided object. An octagon always in the occult represents a stargate or a gate, a passageway. Just like CERN. CERN, if you look at it, and I'll put a picture in, it has 8 sides. Interestingly enough, who's sitting right next to him? Oh, our little buddy, the black cube. So here we have time and space again, with a gate, with a stargate, or with a gateway. I don't like that word stargate because it's too industrial. It's a gate to something. All I know is the third dimensional evidence does not add up to third dimensional destruction. Planes don't disappear, bodies aren't found, steel is reduced to nothing, the concrete is completely dust. You know, if you really still think that this was done in a third dimension, well, then you believe everything the government tells you. This was done with very high physics. You see this 10-sided thing here, or 8-sided thing? See the cube? You see how it's facing where the towers were? Okay, I find that interesting that they cued in on the picture from this angle and they show it. What's more interesting is, here's a sea-based HARP unit with the same configuration. So, this cube and this, they're doing something with time. Something is going on with time and space. That's why nobody can figure out how these towers came down. The planes are out of whack, or they're not there, or people didn't see the same thing. It all goes back to Saturn. See, the old saying is what? All roads lead to Rome. No, not quite. They all lead to Saturn. You know why? Because Italy, Google it, its original name was the land of Saturnia. All roads lead to Saturn. That's the truth.
As I was saying, that's not really an estimate. Those are exact figures. I had a printout here of the cash flow of the bank for the past 2 months.
How do you get this information?
It just comes to you. This stuff just flies through the air. They send this information out. I mean, it's just beamed out all over the fucking place. You all have to do is know how to grab it. See how to grab it.
You got the wrong man.
Really? Well, I have some mighty interesting photographs of you taken with a female underage in a motel by the Dallas Police Department on September 11th, 1960. Would you like to look at these visual images and see if they refresh your memory?